Hello everyone from the Lumonics Light and Sound Gallery. Welcome to our event at the Dairy Arts Center, where we have prepared a multi-sensory art experience for you. Before we begin, here is some background information. Lumonics is among the first and longest running light art projects in the U.S., co-founded by the late visionaries Dorothy Tanner and Mel Tanner. They are known for their Lumonics art form, which combines light, music, and sculptures to create immersive experiences, which originated in 1969 in Miami, Florida. Mel Tanner and Dorothy Tanner were born in New York in the 1920s, 100 years ago. Like millions of others, they were deeply affected by the Great Depression and World War II. As a teenager, Mel served in combat in Europe in World War II. After the war, he enrolled at Pratt Institute and then the Brooklyn Museum School of Art under the new GI Bill. Dorothy Tanner worked at a photography studio and took classes in her free time at several art schools, including the Brooklyn. It was there that they met when a fellow student brought her to Mel's studio on a date. It was a time of great fluctuation in the art world because so many of the great European artists living in Nazi-controlled countries had to flee during the war and were welcomed by the art schools in the U.S. One of Mel's painting instructors was the famous Max Beckman, who did not speak English very well, and his wife did the translating. The Tanners married in 1951, 2 years after they met, and began an art school and then a co-op gallery. While running the gallery, Mel and Dorothy did commission work for many corporations, including General Electric, who asked them to create a sculpture to house the pacemaker. They chose the material acrylic glass, also known as plexiglass, which was and still is considered an industrial material until the Tanners and other artists recognized its value as an art material, with its light transmitting quality, lightness and weight, and durability. There is a lot more to this story, and much of it is in the Tanners' own words.
I'm Cynthia Madden-Leitner. I'm the founder and director of the Museum of Outdoor Arts. I have the privilege of introducing Todd Seiler. He's here today. And Todd's going to talk a little bit about Dorothy and Mel Tanner and their work. And Todd is known as a cerebralist, an inventor, an author, and when I met him, he was writing a book called Think Like a Genius. And Think Like a Genius is a process that geniuses have used, and Todd has outlined all of the steps on how to invent and create in layman's terms, which is very exciting, and we're very honored to have him with us today to talk to Dorothy and to talk about Dorothy's work.
And it's fantastic to be here. When I first met Dorothy and got familiar with this world, I suddenly realized that what they have is this freewheeling kind of spirit of innovation that flows so naturally out of creativity, curiosity, wonderment, all the core things that we know when we look at and try to connect light and life. And, without those two fundamental things, we couldn't exist. And so in their work, what I see constantly, beautifully realized, is this intertwine, this eternal intertwine of light and life, like in our minds and nature, that are so natural, it's so organic, and they're embodiments, literally, if you think about it, matter, energy, material, and meaning, the things we imbue our structures and create things with. And in fact, I said to Dorothy at one point, I said, genius is everywhere, every day, and everyone in every way imaginable, because we don't see it, we don't see it until it's manifest in some way. So I see so much invention and innovation in these works that absolutely take us to what might be called a synthetic, a synesthesia experience. And I do hope that this body of work and way of thinking and understanding the world and enabling us through the plastic arts to literally have an experience of what enlightenment feels like, looks like, and everything that flows radiates out of it. That's so exciting. That inspires us. Because after all, right, inspiration is key to all of this. And even the journey that Dorothy's been on with Mel and with Marc Billard in the way they construct and devise these just elegant, gorgeous pieces that in fact have so much light and life and all the symbolism, metaphorically, philosophically, that comes with it, that's absolutely special. And in fact, is part of an area that they're going in and that they're moving towards even now as they use literally the light of art to heal, to allow us to actually bring that presence in our lives and see it and experience it in a very, I would say, not just artistic, a spiritual way, but in a way that enriches our lives in a really profound way.
Lumonics came as a result, not entirely, of an experience that Mel had. Mel and I came down to the facility to check out the fountain or whatever, and then we were walking across a parking lot to go to a diner to have a bite. And Mel looked up, and a light bounced off the wing of an airplane, and Mel saw himself the other side of the parking lot. He also did not entirely recognize me. He did not tell me of what he had experienced because it was so profound. However, he was changed by that flash of light. And so Lumonics, which was at that time After Image Studio or whatever we called it, I think 1969 came into what was necessary for us to be doing, which is to further the combination of the sound and the light sculptures to raise the consciousness. It's such a flat phrase by now, but it's the best I can do. Well, you know, Mel and I had changed in many ways. Certainly, the fact that our friends were 20 years younger than we. They were the energy that spawned the 60s and the whole breakout that the 60s brought with it. These people that we were in touch with were young people that were getting stoned and that were finding other ways of being, other ways of living. And light, or certainly music, was very, very important. It was the vehicle of transmitting that vibration. We picked up on that. And our early light and sound theater incorporated these people as audience. We had a warehouse. The warehouse had been our studio. And then we took another warehouse that was adjacent to it. So we had a performance space and we had a workspace. Our studio was in the same location as the theater which was a large warehouse with a 30-foot wall. Mel had a circular sculpture in the middle of it that came out. We fell into a time when there were light shows starting to happen. There were black light rooms, all kinds of art that was coming out of the 60s mentality, which was very, the hell with the past, and what are we doing for tomorrow? What are we doing right now? That is saying something. And we fell into that possibility, and we utilized it differently than the kids did, but not totally. We actually took from it and recreated what we were doing with it, which was pretty impressive.
Yeah, you talked about at the end of the film that you really believe light and sound is a healing force. So could you talk a little bit about that?
Well, you know, so far as light and sound, certainly sound, I had a gut recognition that this is a healing thing, as well as something that you have the power to trip out on, to trip out of yourself. And the reason I keep going is because I do want it to continue to happen. I think it's valuable. I wouldn't like to think of having spent a better part of a lifetime on something inconsequential. On the other hand, no, not the other hand. I would like it to be appreciated, for people to have it to do with as they will.
I have to say that many scientists believe a discovery is an accident waiting for a prepared mind. So you're kind of preparing the minds through the work and so forth that you do in a very fluid, very imaginative, and very unbounded way, which is quite extraordinary.
Being able to utilize the art, the power of the art, the light art, to create healing. Our experience in Miami and Fort Lauderdale, and I guess what's really kept us going, is the fact that it's not just doing art, it's looking to combine the light art that we do and music to bring people to a better, a healing place.
You start by getting a lot of plastic and electricity and
some sauce.
And a lot of different elements. And you start arranging them, start putting them together this way, that way, until it kind of fits. And it fits your aesthetic sensibilities. And then it starts to gel. Try not to call it too much of anything. You know, it's like, here it is. And but if you have to and really go further into it, certainly it's an art form.
Yes, it is.
I don't know what else could you describe that. It is very much a statement, but it's not one that, I particularly want to verbalize or do I feel would be helped by verbalizing. It is what it is. You can take it from there. I've done this part. Do you feel like you do your part?
Dorothy passed away in 2020 at the age of 97, 2 years after receiving the Denver Mayor's Award for Innovation in the Arts. After her passing, we studio members who have been part of the project since 1972 have been exploring new ways of bringing the light art to the public, including a virtual Lumonics production and introducing the Tanners' multimedia expression to a new audience and generation. We present Lumonics Immersed in our performance space in North Denver, which also consists of galleries, light art school, and studio. The essence of the experience is in its ability to inspire creativity, expand consciousness, and elicit a profound sense of wonder, which remains true to the Tanner's original vision. We will now begin the special presentation we have created for you using original visual music accompanied by a section of the Lumonics Light Orchestra that is on stage. Much of the soundtrack was created by Dorothy in collaboration with Marc Billard when she was in her 70s and 80s. It is a unique hybrid of jazz, classical, world, electronica, spoken word, and some other genres we haven't figured out what to call them. The video is from our 50-plus years of archives. Marc continues to create music and visuals. Lumonics Immersed continues to push the boundaries of artistic expression and sensory engagement. We hope this experience, out of our usual performance space, will leave you feeling inspired and energized. Thank you for coming.